welcome to this part of the training in which I will explain how to write your shaping plan. So what we'll do is I will guide you to the template of the shaping plan that I provided. I made some slides, and then after that we have time for discussion, and I can help you personally with your plan. Let's get started. Slideshow. Now I have to go back to share screen. So let's get to how you write a shaping plan, because writing a shaping plan is really a skill, and it's one of the key lessons for trainers, because the better you can write your shaping plan, the better you have that plan in your head, and the better you can think of solutions, but also be more flexible because you already have an idea of a step-by-step plan. And if that doesn't work because you get feedback from your horse, from the environment in that moment, it's way easier to think of a creative idea and to switch to another idea and try that out, because training is also experimenting. So we're going to talk today about the shaping plan, one of the key lessons for trainers. We have 6 key lessons, and shaping plan is one very important part. Again, we have to start with end in mind. That is so important, because if you know where you want to go, it's way easier to plan your journey. So we all know this. Where do we want to go? We want our horses to get active. We want our horses to slim down. So that is a lot. That is a big goal. So in order to not get discouraged, divide it into smaller steps so you can achieve those smaller steps, and you can stay motivated in the process, which is principles of learning and motivation, which is another one of the 6 key lessons for horses, for horse trainers. So this is the shaping plan that I provided. It looks like this, and I will guide you step by step through the process. So I made it very extended, named trainer, because I made this also for myself and for other people, which I trained in clicker training. So I gathered all the shaping plans. So the name of the trainer, you don't have to fill that in for yourself, but the name of the horse, if you have multiple horses, it's really good to fill in here what your name is, or the name of the trainer, and then here the name of the horse. And then the date. And sometimes it is really good to realize the time of the training. So that is more for the shaping plan on the back. And then, yeah, it's really good to, this is like a combined shaping plan training journal, because the time can also influence the performance of the horse. If you train in the early mornings, horses might be more active than when you train at noon, or in late evenings, especially in summer. If it cools down, sunset, horses are more active. If you want active behavior, those if you track the time of your training and the results, then you can recognize a pattern. So you can all use that information. The setup is more about the environment is where you are, like indoor arena, outdoor arena, paddock, stall, and then the setup is yeah, I set up like cones in the middle of the arena, something like that. So and then we have to envision it, and then we have to imagine the details. I'm going through all this. This is just like a preview of what we're going to talk about today. And then learning from mistakes, that's at the end. So that's more the training journal part. So let's see if this video works. It's supposed to work. And it doesn't, so no, it will. So this is when I still did squares instead of rectangles. Later, I started doing rectangles more, because then you have long straight lines, which is easier for the horse to do. But this is one of the, yeah, this is the result that I got. I hope it will play. So this is way further in training. I didn't accomplish this in 2 weeks. This was a whole process. When I started to train it, it was more like I didn't have that end goal as clear. So it developed as I was going. Like I started doing smaller things, but I always asked myself, what behaviors can I use that Kira already knows to make it easier for her to train another behavior? I do that constantly. I always use the behaviors she already knows. Just a second, please. Okay, this doesn't work right now, but I will share that video later on, or I can resume recording. So this is Kira. I didn't want to run as fast as she did. So I'm pointing, because pointing is, the pointing is cueing, go around the object. So I started with little buckets and then cones, and until she generalized the cue, go around. And in this video, as you could see, I didn't click for everything. I clicked when she started offering canter, and then I clicked for the third obstacle. So that's how you can build it up, and that's how you can, what you can accomplish in the future. I didn't start out with this, but this is just a little video to see what can happen if you do this. I still have my target stick, because sometimes here I just wanted to entice her to move faster, and I used my arm as a signal, and now she goes cantering. It's 1, 2, 3. So at the third one, I stop and reinforce. I will send you the whole video. I will share that with you so that you can watch that later. So let's start at the beginning of the shaping plan. It says here the summary of the goal behavior. So this is what I would do. So the summary is teach Kira to walk around obstacles. I said let Kira, but it's really teaching Kira to walk around obstacles. Cueing Kira from a distance what to do. So distance is something that you really have to practice. And the goal is to get Kira moving without me moving. So here in this video, I was still moving, but there were also times that I could stand still, depending on the setup. And I could just say, go there, go there, go there, or canter now, canter now, canter now, which was really great, but it was a long learning process. So it will take a little bit longer than using a reverse round pen, because in the reverse round pen you have a barrier where the horse walks around, so you don't have to teach a lot of the behaviors that you are teaching in the reverse rectangle. But in my opinion, the reverse rectangle, the horse has to think a little bit more, has to know a little bit more, but the benefits are also bigger, because whenever you are at liberty, whenever you see a jump, you can just say, go around that, and then, oh, here's something, go around this, and that gives you way more flexibility in your training setup. So that, because otherwise you have to set up your reverse round pen all the time. So you have to have all those materials, you have to set it up, clean it up, and this is spending a little bit more time in training in the beginning, but it pays off in time saving and flexibility further on in training. The next goal would be trotting around the obstacles, and the future goal cantering around the obstacles. So we start with walk, start really, really easy. Once your horse knows that he has to go around the cones or obstacles, and he knows you will be clicking at this cone and will be feeding at that cone, they will start offering more faster behavior. And this is the summary of goal behavior. Then a short description of your approach. That is the next one here. So that would be something like well, for this reverse rectangle, I'm using cones as obstacles. I will walk in the outdoor arena without other horses. I will use the lowest value of reinforcers. I will use training techniques that give Kira as much clarity as she needs. For instance, using the target stick as a training tool. I will use back chaining to chain the behaviors moving around the cones in a rectangle. I have a video about that. Or I will use mats, and I will do everything with positive reinforcement. Just to set your mind up for what it really is that you want to accomplish. So it's really good, like if you don't know how to start this short description of your approach, imagine that you are telling a friend that knows nothing about horses, knows nothing about training or positive reinforcement training, and knows nothing about how your end goal behavior looks like. The person is also blind. So how would you describe that? Because that really helps you to be specific, which is very necessary to make the actual shaping plan. Then I've written down, like here, the third one is saying a list of behaviors that are needed. So in order for Kira to teach her around the rectangle, reverse rectangle, and that's why I asked every one of you if you were experienced in clicker training, and you all said yes, so that's why you're in this course. Key lesson targeting. It's so helpful if your horse can touch a target stick or touch cones or touch any other object. Mat training comes in really, really handy. Sending Kira or sending your horse away from you. I've already shared a video where I sent Kira away to a cone. That is really important because that is what you need. Most people start that they are moving with the horse. So the cue is the trainer moves. Also, it's natural for horses and for humans to move in unison and in sync. So we have to not do that for this reversed rectangle. Because if we have a setup in an outdoor arena or in an arena size like 20 by 40 meters, and we want to send a horse around, we don't want to run with them anymore because it needs to be staying motivated for us too. So sending your horse away from you is a behavior that comes in really, really handy. Going around the cone, we talked about that a lot, and also standing still after a click and wait for the delivery of the food. One of the things that can be really challenging is that you click and your horse comes run to you because he's not learned to wait until the food is delivered. If you're in one of my programs and you know about key lesson table manners, I always make sure that, especially in the beginning of the training from the horse, that the horse learns to wait until the food is delivered at his lips. I always say move towards the horse in the beginning. So after you click, your horse can stand still and wait for the delivery because he has the confidence that the food will come to him. That was one of the struggles that I had in the beginning with Kira. She was just walking and then I clicked and then she either turned inwards or walked towards me. So I had to be faster after a click and then deliver the food. So that is also, we can make a shaping plan for each and every behavior that is needed. And that's what you can do. And sometimes a keep going signal could be handy. There's different approaches to that. Some clicker trainers, positive reinforcement trainers say you never should need a keep going signal because if you train well, you don't need it. I agree with that. But if you're not that far, a keep going signal is easily trained. It gives your horse information, it gives your horse clarity. So why not use that technique for now? So this is, and anything else that your horse needs to learn that you can think of. So the more you think about that, the more clear it is in your head. So then at the bottom, it says action plan. So your action plan is teach key lesson targeting, check. Mat training, check, hopefully. Sending the horse away from you, going around the cone, standing still after a click, putting it all together in a reversed rectangle setup. And then you can start by teaching your horse to move around those cones by back chaining. If you don't know what back chaining is, you start with, if it is a series of behavior, which a reverse rectangle is, because the series is very simplistic. Go around cone 1, go around 2, go around cone 3, go around cone 4, and then you have one square or rectangle done. So by back chaining, you start with reinforcing going around cone 4. That is why it's very important to keep the setup the same. So that's why it's important with the setup here on top to make a note. Oh, I've set up my reverse rectangle in the middle or near A or C of or in a specific corner. So the more you keep the context the same, the easier the horse will learn the behavior. Then you change the context, like then you set up your rectangle here or there, or bigger or smaller or different objects to walk around to generalize the concept of the reverse rectangle. So back chaining, you teach go around cone 4, click and treat, repeat, repeat, repeat. Then you ask your horse to stand between cone 3 and 4. You send your horse to cone 4, send him around, click and treat. Then you start your horse at cone number 3. Do I have, I was doing this. Okay, cone number 3. And then you ask your horse to go, and your horse already knows, ooh, at cone number 4, I will be clicked and reinforced. Let's go there. So you accomplish two things. Your horse starts to recognize the next thing that he has to do, it's already be reinforced. So movement is enticed because he wants to be there as quick as possible, because that's where the click is. Then you put your horse at cone number 2. You can also click for 2, 3, 4, but 4 has been reinforced at this point the most. So where does he want to go? He wants to go to number 4. And then you add in the first cone. So, and then because cone number 4 is reinforced the most, 3 a little bit less, 2 is there, but you are at number 1. So if you send him, he will recognize, oh, then I go to 2, 3, 4, I recognize this. So it will be very, very easy to entice him to offer more movement and to offer the direction where he needs to go, because you have practiced that part, the end part. And then you do more circles, and then you alternate. And we can talk about that because that are the details of the unmute. I pressed mute accidentally. So now we are at the actual shaping plan, the criteria. I thought I heard somebody entering, but I guess not, because I want to get people in here if they're in the waiting room. Sorry. So the details of your shaping plan. Let's talk about the criteria. That is this part. So pick one of the behaviors of step 3. Step 3 was list all the behaviors that are needed. So pick one, like for instance, going around the cone. Start with the end goal in mind. What does that behavior look like? So what does it look like if you're sending your horse away from you, that he goes around the cone, comes back, or stands there and wait for his food to be delivered? Divide it into smaller steps. If you remember the video that I shared from Kira, I had the cone really close by. I stood next to her shoulder. I said, touch the cone. Great. Then you can either put the cone further away, or you can back your horse up, because when you I would say alternate, because backing up can be physically hard or difficult for a horse. So depending on the situation, or you can alternate, like make the distance between the cone and the horse a little bit bigger, repeat, and then guide your horse maybe with the target stick to go around the cone and then increase the distance. So that is the criteria that you can do. And start as small as possible. So movement always starts with weight shift. Direction always starts with looking, because if your horse is looking that way, it will be impossible to send your horse that way. He has to look first where he's going. So in order to give that clarity, we use a cone or a mat. So start as small as possible. And this is really how I taught myself to do it. How can I make this step even easier for my horse? What needs to happen for Kira in order to touch that cone at 2 meters before it happens? Well, she needs to know how to touch the cone. She needs to be comfortable moving away from me, because I am the trainer with the reinforcements. So if if a horse is really sticky to you, how can you teach that he can let go of you and knows touching the cone will lead to the reinforcer, not the trainer. And that's especially for people who are starting. You are all more advanced, so your horse will quickly pick up. If you are consistently, the cone is where you get reinforced or bridged and reinforced, then it will be easier for your horse to leave you and go to the cone. And that is what needs to be trained, because like I said, it is a natural thing for group animals to stay with you. And it's not as if you trained your horse well and he's not mugging you, it's not about the treat. It's about what you offer. You offer the challenge, you offer learning, and you offer love and attention and all the good things. So it's very hard to send your horse away from you. And the more we realize that this is a difficult thing, we can use that by making the steps setup easier, using the right value reinforcers. Low value is still high enough for the horse to do it. And then write down the smallest step. So what is the slightest try that will lead to the goal behavior? Write it down, because writing it down helps us to really let sink in that behavior, especially if you do it with pen and paper. That works even better than typing. Studies have proven that. So if you have like the rough setup, that would be great if you would do that with pen and paper, and then the details you can type up, because if you have typed it up, it's also easier to, especially in Word, to change the things. Details of your shaping plan is also here. It is the reinforcers. So think about 2 or 3 reinforcers that you can use that will work for your horse. Because if you have 2, or maybe a mix, that can also help. If you have like beet pulp and add in a few sunflower seeds. Sunflower seeds is maybe not the best option, but something that really changes the texture, changes the taste. And if you have a mix, then sometimes there will be a little bit more of this and then a little bit more of that, which can also help, like looking for that novelty, like, oh, what do I get? Do I get like a little bit more of this or a little bit more of that? It also can help you provide a jackpot. If you know, okay, I have 1 piece of apple today to share, not a big piece, but just a small piece, if your horse can have that. And then it also makes you realize when would be really worth it to give that really high reinforcer. But I wouldn't use very, very high reinforcers during the rest of the training. I always aim for the lowest value, because it's in the value. There is still value in low value. So you don't create overexcitement or frustration. If movement is still aversive, make sure you use maybe a little bit of higher reinforcers, or increase the rate of reinforcement. Be generous, be generous. And if all of your horses are advanced, so click and give a tiny pellet, I would say click more often for 1 tiny pellet. So that would be more beneficial for his mental state and his learning process than that you click once and give a whole handful. Think about your jackpots. That's why it's here. Think about when would you like to give a jackpot. If your horse gets it in 1 go, woohoo, you know, great. And having envisioned that behavior in your mind before you start will help you recognize, wow, this was really amazing. And use breaks and alternating difficult or hard behavior with super simple, fun, and easy behaviors to keep motivation high. If it's hard for your horse to trot and he offered a trot, ooh, do something else. Ask super simple behavior, let him graze maybe a few bites, let him stand on a mat, step onto a mat, let him stand on the mat, scratch him, really make it a big deal, give him like a mental break or a physical break or both. And don't be afraid that you will lose that behavior, because those jackpots and the break will really help give your horse the opportunity, his brain to think like, what did I do to earn all this? Oh, I offered a trot, even if it's just 1 step, you know, they will remember. And where I used to make the mistake, and there was really a big pitfall that I fell into over and over. That was before I started writing things down and thinking about my criteria. The pitfall that I fell into in the beginning over and over was, oh, this was a coincidence. Let's try that again. Oh, he did it again. Well, to make really, really sure that my horse understood what I was asking, I asked it again. So sometimes I asked 3 times. So because I was new and I was like, I don't know if you understand. So maybe it was a coincidence. So I just give you a treat, but show me more so I can jackpot you. That didn't work because I was repeating the same thing and the horse didn't get that this was something huge, so started to try other things. So in my eyes, the behavior decreased, and then I was disappointed. Or it was really, really good. I get a jackpot, and I thought, let's do another jackpot. And the horse, yeah, needed time to process what happened. So they start trying other things. So because I wasn't really clear in my setup and my criteria, so it was still a lot of guesswork for my horse. So instead of getting the same or better, it always decreased, in my opinion. So when I learned to listen to that voice in my head, which was, I start using that as a cue to stop. If I started to think, this was really great, I want to see that again. Or this was a coincidence, let's ask that again. I taught myself to let that be the cue to give my horse jackpot and a break. And then, or either give a long break, like 5-10 minutes, or start training something else, something easy, and ask the next day. And what happened was, if I really let that sink in, stopped training that behavior after the jackpot, stopped asking, did either something else, give a break, and the next day it was there and it was super solid. So that's where I started jumping from jackpot to jackpot. And think about your jackpots. I want you to think about what can you really give your horse that he really, really likes. And it can be also a combination. Your high voice, maybe you can applaud or laugh or really be energetic and happy about that, because they pick up on your emotions. You can give food, you can give scratches. If it's like a duration thing, sometimes, or standing on the mat, I sometimes use click, treat, click, treat, click, treat, just like really make it a big deal, or click and then treat, treat, treat. And while I'm treating, I'm just giving like compliments. I'm using my voice. You're such a smart horse, and that makes me happy if I say that. So, and that is really something horses pick up. So instead of click, use a bucket, and not doing anything, I make it a big deal, also emotional, because they pick up on that. So think about what you can do. Yeah, and using breaks and alternating difficult stuff. Okay, he's not quite getting it, but I see he's trying. Do something else and come back a little bit later in training. That is really a lifesaver for me when I discovered that alternating, taking the brain off of the difficult thing, it really also helps us to relax. So and then we realize, okay, tiny, tiny, tiny steps. Transaction criteria, that is also in this column, and that is, I want you to think about a number. 1, 2, 3. Usually 3 times is average. Sometimes horses get it right away or lump, so they skip steps. So you have written like 10 steps and he goes from number 4 to number 8. Woohoo! Jackpot. Give him a break. Just do what we just talked about. Or you can use this how many times you have asked for that repetition before you raised your criteria. That is another way that you can use that column. Harder, more difficult, more challenging behaviors, like physically challenging, need more repetitions. When I was starting Kira to do rearing, the levada, that takes a lot of muscle and stamina. Also, the cantering takes a lot of building muscle and stamina. So just like going for 3 cones in that reverse rectangle, that is something that I did a lot. And then I clicked for 1, and then I clicked for 2, and then I clicked for 3, for 3, for 3, for 4, and I get back to 3. You know, up and down, not in a straight line, up, 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 up. Make it a little bit more like, oh, maybe I get for 1. Oh, I didn't hear a click. Let's get to the second one, because maybe two cones is the thing now. And that will entice your horse to stay motivated, instead of like, I know I can only get a click after 10 rounds of cantering. And then they decide, because you are predictable, that's not worth that 1 reinforcer. The details, the bridge signal, it says on top, it says bridge signal. Think about your bridge signal. Do you use a keep going signal? What is it? Write it down. Does this training need a special bridge signal? Maybe you are always using a tongue click, which is really soft and it's windy, and you really want your horse to hear his bridge signal. Maybe you can use a box clicker. Or the other way around, you always use a box clicker, but now you're training something that you are super close by and you don't want to scare your horse, or the clicker can be hard on the ears because they have sensitive ears. So think about that. Maybe you want to switch bridges because you want to keep your hands free in this particular setup. And also write down what bridge signal is good for that particular learner. And that is especially important if you train multiple horses or animals. This animal is used to that bridge, that one is that bridge. If you train multiple animals, it can be hard to keep track, especially in the beginning. And then it's easy to write it down. Write everything down. And then repeat this, this actual shaping plan with the steps for all the behaviors that you need, like sending away, going around the cone, going from mat to mat, before you all put it all together. Because going around a reverse rectangle is a really, really complex behavior. It's not a simple behavior like touch, click. That is simple. That is just one movement that you repeat over and over, and it's learned and taught, trained quickly. But if you have a complex behavior like a reverse rectangle, it has so many behaviors in it. It would be a pitfall to set up a reverse rectangle and then teach your horse to go around the cones, because you are skipping that foundation. You know, focusing on what the end result looked like without training the behaviors that your horse needs to understand in order to do the reverse rectangle. Don't be afraid of getting it wrong. That is all learning, and you will have to check it out and get your horse's feedback. I have made like beautiful lists of steps, and then I went to the horse and I used, for instance, a target stick. This particular horse was afraid, was terrified for round objects. It took us a while because I was giving a demonstration at the SPCA and it was winter. Now, one lady was wearing a toque with a little pom-pom on her head. I was using that target stick and the horse just was super afraid of us. Then one person said, like, maybe it's a target stick. Okay, so put target stick down, and it was a little bit better, but still wasn't there. And then somebody noticed, and I found that so smart. And because I was training, I couldn't see that, but because outside I see different things. So that person noticed, maybe this horse is afraid for round objects. So then I got rid of the target stick. I have a little cone. I asked the other lady to took off her toque, and targeting was just trained within minutes. It was such a good experience to, you know, and I had like, yeah, doing this with the target stick, looking at the target stick, moving towards the target stick, touching the target stick. Well, I could throw that right out of the window. I had to exchange the target stick for a little cone. And then I could follow the rest of the plan. But it's the horse, it's the learner that determines if our shaping plan will work. Then at the bottom, I put a little place for points of learning. And so, like what I said, it's a little bit of a combination of a training journal. So keep track of what happened in training. That is key lesson, training journal. Phrase things in a non-judgmental and positive way. So try to be objective. The horse was not stupid. No, the horse didn't touch the round target. Learning point, horse was afraid of round objects. Focus on one learning point of the trainer. Well, in the example I gave is I have to, if the horse isn't behave as expected or has fear, let's do something about the fear first before we move on to training. Something like that. Figure out what is going on so you can move forward. And the learning point for the horse, what could the horse improve on? So in this particular example, I would say desensitizing round objects for this particular horse, because there are many, many round objects in the world. Homework, write your shaping plan, key lessons for trainers. Share it in the Facebook group for feedback, have fun and enjoy the process. I'm here to help you do it. And then now we have time for Q&A. Ta-da! Yes, Margaret.
Well, I just wanted to say that you answered a lot of my questions. Because it was really nice to hear that template fleshed out and what you really meant by each section. Like, I want to come back and look at this video in more detail again, because there were so many pearls.
Thank you.
I do have a couple of questions that I wrote down that are a little bit more on the practical side, because I think I'm really enjoying sort of the positive reinforcement approach that you described. But this was actually very helpful for me, because I am trying to do a reverse rectangle, and I just have to throw this where I start.
Oh, it froze.
If the horse, for example, in the reverse rectangle, you are using a cue of some kind. If the horse is just standing there and not moving, you said you used your arm and then waited. You also mentioned, following a target, and then, or if the horse knows to touch a cone, to send it to touch a cone. Is there any reason that a horse should have to learn to touch a cone if he knows how to follow a target, for example, or follow your arm? I mean, targeting is a good skill anyway, so that's what I was planning on using.
Yeah, the targeting will help if you teach your horse to target first, Then you can lead with a
Mhm.
moving target and entice the horse to follow it, and then you can click for the movement. So that's why targeting is a really good foundational skill to have. So, but you
So
could, if your horse already follows like a signal of your arm, you don't have to do that. I think you can get away from for teaching your horse to go around a cone and use that. But it's just, yeah, I start teaching all the horses, all the key lessons before I start anything else. You can go really quickly through those key lessons for horses, and that's the way I work, and that's what I taught myself to do. But if it's not necessary, you don't have to do it. But you will find out if it comes in handy.
So my horse will follow a cone, will follow the target without the cones. So that's one of the behaviors that she knows already. I was a little confused about the setup of the cones when you, both initially and then when you talk about the back chaining. Is cone 4 a corner cone and you're going around at 90 degrees and you have kind of an L setup, or a full rectangle setup, or is cone 4 the end of a straight line and you go right around it and come back? That's where I was confused.
Depending on what part of the behavior in the process you are in training. But going around, when I say go around a corner, because I had to think about how can I make go around the corner, like cone, sorry, go around the cone as clear as possible for my horse to understand. So my criteria for going around is keep the cone between you and me. That's going around behavior for me. That's how I describe it in my head.
So I guess what
So
I
it
was
can be
wondering,
on a line, it can be in an L, it can be in a rectangle. So Kira needs to keep the cone or the other obstacle, because I taught her to generalize between her and me. So if I say that's the Dutch word for go around. So that's my, and I point and I say she knows to go around that obstacle. If I point to another thing, and then the rest of my body position to where I am, how I move, will give her information if it's going to a straight line, or maybe come and go. So you create a slalom, maybe. Does that answer your question?
So if the cone is at the end of a straight line of cones, you're actually moving your body if you want her to keep the cone between you and her and come back down, like go 360 degrees. Or are you just going around 3/4?
How many cones are you talking about?
Well, cone 4. You're starting with cone 4 to go around the cone.
Yeah, well, then I already, that was how I initially started. I started in a square because it was for a HippoLogic clicker challenge. And the challenge was to teach your horse while you were standing in the middle, to teach your horse to walk around, trot around, or canter around. So the quickest way to teach your horse that, and to skip as many other behaviors that you want to train, is to start back chaining. So what I did was I tried to stand in the middle and send my horse to a cone. And I started with cone number 4. I have a video where I show you that challenge. Later on, I realized if I have to teach other people this, and for movement training, you want your horse to repeat, you want your horse to go in maybe in a trot or possibly canter over time. So then it's easier to start teaching going around the cone and all the other behaviors that I mentioned, because then you have a more solid foundation and you can experiment more. Because in fact, for the clicker challenge, I taught Kira to go around a square. That was like the end goal behavior. But in the reverse rectangle setup, the purpose is a little bit different. The purpose is movement and speed more than just going around the cone.
Okay.
So that's different goal.
Okay. I'm going to stop so that any more questions from somebody else.
Do you have questions, Sarah?
Okay. Well, so I did download and print this, and so I can follow, but I am just realizing that what I'm doing right now is basic, like really basic. So I need to find something that I can build on. So I posted some videos today. We walked over a pole, and so I got him to go forward, walking over the pole in the grass arena. So, you know, we're definitely making some progress. I also tried the carrot stretches, but it was a flop because he was confused, because he is used to reaching for that target or going toward it. And so all of a sudden I was asking him to, because in the carrot stretches, he knows he stands still, his body, and then he moves his head around and stretches. So when he saw that target over there, he's like, oh, so I got to go follow that. So he turned all the way around to follow it. So I dropped that, and then I just did carrot stretches with, like I always do, with the click and the treat when he stretches. So I learned that. So
and what do you do to make him bend? Did you use a carrot in the beginning? Like I've seen so many videos that are luring the horse in the behavior, which is fine. Or do you use your hand? How does Remy know that he has to bend?
Well, you could see it on the video, but what I do is there's some different sets that I do. So I stand right at his shoulder, and well, I stand right at his shoulder, and he knows to bring his head around really close, and then I click and I treat.
And how did you taught that?
I'm sorry?
How did you start teaching that?
I've been doing those for a long time. So I still have the treat and I have the click. And so he knows that. Maybe in the beginning, I didn't do it with a clicker. I can't remember when I first got the clickers, but he knows that he's going to get his treat if he moves his head around. So
because
it's
if you would
treat.
have known how you started that behavior, you could do the same setup, but then with target stick, and start.
I'm just
like what I said, like lower your criteria. If you use a different setup because it's a contact shift, then stand next to him, ask him to really make it easy. So if his nose is here and you want him to bend, keep the target like next to his nose, and then you say touch or target or whatever. And then he moves toward, and then you click and treat. And then slowly after repetitions, you do this, and then you click for keep his feet on the ground. So if he can already do mat training, that would really help at this point to keep his feet still, because it is logical that they see, oh, I need to go here. So I turn my head and I turn my hindquarters and I stay straight instead of bending.
Do you think it makes sense to do that? Or should I just maybe, like you say, maybe use a mat? Or because in his mind now, the target means he goes toward it or he moves toward it instead. So would that be, since he already does the behavior without a target in that instance? I mean, is there any, in fact,
well,
Kate,
what is the purpose of using a target for you?
Exactly.
If
Kate
that
actually put
means that you can do it, and it can everything you train will be beneficial in a later state, even if it gives you the practice of training. So therefore, totally do it. But at the same time, we have just a short part of the week left for this course. So is it useful for now to start training carrot stretches with a target stick, or would you rather spend your training time to something towards movement? So
I'd rather do movement. Exactly. And actually thinking, I was kind of making notes here, you know, when I get to our new place, we'll have an arena, and we'd already have an arena, so it's kind of the same, but we'll have an area that I can say, okay, and I can set up a bunch. I suppose I could do it if I were staying here, but I'm just looking forward. So I would like to be able to do something like eventually like get him to go around the reverse rectangle and get some trotting out of him or some cantering out of him. Now, obviously, it's not going to happen between now and the end of this course, but what can I do to kind of have that in my mind as kind of, that's what I want to do. Say I want to do the reverse rectangle eventually one of these days. Okay, does that mean we walk over the poles with the target? I haven't sent him away. There's just so much that I just, would need to work through with him.
What can he do? What can he touch cones?
I don't have any cones. I think either they'll have some over there or I'll
The
get some.
cones is stationary targets. Like,
Haven't done it yet.
Okay.
I haven't done it or sent him away to anything or
Does
sent
he
him
know
to.
how to stand on a mat?
Haven't done it. All I've done right now is just the target. It's just walking with the target and getting him to go over the poles and touching the target. And that's all I've done, really.
Okay, so for you, the quickest way would be in your situation. I would stop asking, getting or clicking for over a pole, and I would set up a little rectangle with the poles.
Okay.
So you can teach him around, so it's more like a reverse round pen because you have kind of a boundary, but because it's poles on the ground, you can fade them out. And then
so I stand in the center and I get him to follow around. Is that how?
Yeah, that would be like halfway through your shaping plan, but that would be like a way to get to the reverse rectangle.
Okay.
I would teach him to stand on a mat.
Okay.
Because then you can put mats on the corners.
Okay. I need to get some mats.
And
we
then,
discussed that, the kind of mats to get those.
Yeah.
So mat at each corner.
Yeah, and then I can share mat training.
Yeah.
Shaping plan.
Yeah, like if there's some sort of a template or a video for how to do mat training.
Yeah.
Because we're really basically,
But that's okay. And mat training is just as targeting. It's such a really good investment, and they don't have to master the mat extensively, because the mat training is the goal. You teach your horse to step onto a mat, not to get glued at it, because you want him to willingly to leave the mat. So you click for approaching, standing, and then for leaving the mat. Once he can do that, that's a very simplistic set, but that can be in a few 5-minute repetitions, depending on the horse, because some horses find it scary to step onto things. Most horses have no problem, like Candy was just stepping onto it. And you said like that was coincidence. It was not. She doesn't have a problem with that. She's like, oh, this is where I get my treat for. Let's do that.
Yeah, Remy will do that. And then is there, should I do like a progression? So I think Kate may have had in her videos like one here. So step, go forward to the next one. And I mean, and that gets into, do you point to that and have him go there?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's how you build it up. And then you can take the mats and put them on the corners of the rectangle that you placed with the poles. So the poles will be more like, you can do with or without, depending on the horse, just clarity. So you will fade out the poles to walk around, because it just helps to guide your horse, like, okay, I have to stay on that side of the pole. There's where the click is. So yeah, let's not go over the pole right now. Let's go to the mat. And so you have that visible clarity and point for your horse to go to. Because once he learns to go to the mat, he knows there's the reinforcer. So
okay, so mat to mat to mat to mat, and kind of do it that way.
And in the beginning, what I would do differently, I set multiple mats, but the step that I forget, so that's also feedback for me, is I would start with one mat. But if you have one mat, what most people do is turn their horse around on a very, very sharp turn. I really don't want that. So you can have either, if you have one mat, you can step off the mat, do a really large circle, get back to the same mat from the same side, repeat, repeat. Then you should start for the context with one mat. Then like a few sessions later, you scatter the mats, or you put them really far apart, like 10 meters. So you can have the same repetition and a little bit of a context shift, because the mat can lay here and here and here. And then they generalize, ooh, stepping onto the mat, and you keep reinforcing for stepping. Moving towards the mat is reinforced stepping on and then stepping off. And that you can also divide into sessions depending on the horse. But if you have multiple mats, you don't have to turn your horse around, because we are just animals of habit. So what we usually do is asking the horse to step up, to make a turn to the left, because we are trained to stand on their left side. So they always make that left sharp turn, left sharp turn, left sharp turn, which is not really beneficial for their body. And we do that because we like to just go fast again on the mat. That's just something that we do as humans. Unless you have specific instructions, yes, let's go to, let's put the mat on the AC line and go to the track on the long side, and then, you know, then you can avoid that. So in order to just make a shortcut for training the people, I've like just scatter the mats around so you can have your repetitions from.
And in the beginning, he follows me to each mat.
Yes.
And then how do I transition to getting to pointing and telling him to go there?
Because that is that when you train distance. So that is one of the criteria. So you have, that's what you can write down in this list. Then the criteria is you just circle distance is there. So then you do the same thing as what I practiced with Kira to do when I sent her to that little cone. If you remember that, then you set up, you walk with your horse towards the mat 1 meter or 50 centimeters before the mat. You say step on the mat, because he already know the cue for step onto the mat, if you've trained it well. So then he knows. And the visual cue of the mat is also a cue. So he knows stepping onto the mat will get the reinforcer, because by that time, approaching the mat, yeah, you have faded that criterion out.
And I noticed also, I think when Kate maybe or Nikki, they were on the mat, or Treacle was on the mat, and then she backed up and Treacle stayed there.
Yeah.
So that was part of. Yeah,
that is one part of the mat training. Can I station my horse on the mat when I do whatever? And then that's again the criterion distance. Can my horse stand on the mat when I back up? Can I keep my horse on the mat when I walk around? And you click for your first movement, because they usually already react. Oh, you're moving to the back. I move with you, and you want them to teach stay on the mat, stay on the mat, stay on the mat, stay on the mat. So whatever, I usually start with weird movements. Click treat. Oh, you didn't move. Ooh, click treat. You didn't move. Oh, I step one step backwards. Usually I step, if this is the side of the horse, I step like that. I don't step forward or straight back, because that is the chances are most likely that they move with you, because that is what we taught them over time to do. Like if I back up, I want you to back up. But this, so if they know already, so that is again, do you have a list of behaviors your horse already knows? If your horse knows the cue stand or stay, then you can say stand, and then you walk away, click and treat for him not moving.
Okay.
And your criteria would be keeping his feet onto the mat, because that's the easiest to train. They can look, they are allowed to look, but keep feet on the floor. So that's my criterion that I pay attention to if I teach a horse to stand on a mat.
Okay.
So, and if they move with me, I make my movement a little bit smaller so they learn to ignore my movements, because it's standing that gets them
It
to
gets in the
the
tree.
tree.
Okay.
So that is like really a part of the key lesson for trainers, the principles of learning and motivation. What does the horse understand what he is reinforced for? If not, how can I make it easier for him to understand? So if you want to teach a horse to stay on the mat, make your movements like a different direction. Like, okay, if I stand next to his withers or shoulder and I move that way sideways,
Yeah.
they usually stand still.
Yeah.
Or if I keep my hand on his back and stroke him, they usually stand still, because those are behaviors that we do in a grooming place, and
Right.
that means stand still. So if that is how you start, then you start with staying in touch with your horse, walking around him, click and treat for standing, standing, standing. And then maybe you have to move your hand in a similar position, but don't touch him. Then keep your hand a little bit more close and keep the walking. And then you can do from sideways. If you walk away from your horse from the front, I have discovered that me walking backwards so I can see Kira if she wants to come, like, okay, you're still on the mat, click treat. So you have to, the standing behavior, you have to click and treat before something happens. And that is a difficult part because they are still standing. So is it not too early to reinforce? No, it's not too early. They stand, so click and treat. And now I move away, and Kira already knew stand. So I could say stand. Well, I was walking, click, treat. And then I run towards her because I don't want her to run to me for the reinforcer. So, and then she was like, wow, she's doing all the work. She's moving. I can just stand and receive treats. How amazing is that? So and then I started training, like walking away from Kira with my back towards her. Now, I was in an indoor arena and we had this big mirror to my advantage. So I had eyes in my back. So I used that, Sometimes I set it up that I can see her shadow. So, oh, she's moving, without me looking. Or I listen, those kind of cues, so that she doesn't have to think, oh, Sandra doesn't see what I'm doing, so I will just follow her, just in case, because that is also reinforced like a million times.
So I was thinking in our current setup, I'd probably be able to train tomorrow. Friday we move, so I'm not sure, maybe a little incommunicado there, but tomorrow there's a little bit of it's like a platform in the arena that we have. And it's just enough that he has to kind of just step up just a little and come down. And it's kind of one of those obstacle course kind of things that people do and have their horse step on, but it's a stable thing. And it's kind of like a mat, and he could just step up and he walks over that. I get him to walk over that pretty easily. So if I want to maybe try that tomorrow, could I get him to step up, like I got him to step over the pole today, get him to just step up on that by following the target, and then kind of start training a little bit of the mat behavior from while he's standing with his front feet on that.
What is that obstacle made of?
It's
wood?
Yeah, it's really heavy. It's like a big wood. I mean, it's wood, and it's got like a tread on it, like a little bit of like tread material.
Because what I'm thinking is that would be like, could be a really good preparation for going into the trailer, because he has to step on something that is also.
Oh yeah, we could. Yeah, that'd be great.
So that would be beneficial for that. For the mats, not so much, because you won't take that thing with you. So if you want to do mat training, I would train for a mat that you can take with you. So in a different context, it's the same mat.
Tomorrow we might work on that because it's our last day there. So we might work on that. And then Friday he goes on the trailer. It's a box stall with a step up or a ramp. So I'm pretty sure it'll be pretty easy to get him to go up the ramp, even the step up. But that would be a great thing to have him maybe just tomorrow. That's what we'll do our session for, just stepping up on that.
Yep. And if you could you have like some time with the trailer tomorrow?
No, it's not. She's bringing it. The
Okay.
new barn owner's hauling him, so she's bringing it. So
Yeah,
I don't have access to it.
I would use that obstacle to teach him to step onto, because it's already a new thing. The trailer would be new in the case that he has trailer experience, but
Yeah.
this is a different trailer. This is a different setup. This is everything different. So
Right.
if you could teach him to step onto the thing and
Mhm.
really be generous with jackpots, and you can
Mhm.
really spoil him, because it doesn't matter if you teach him to glue to that object, because that object will be gone, because he will be gone. So it
That's
doesn't
right.
really matter. And do short sessions. Don't just focus on that, on stepping onto unfamiliar surface, so to speak.
Mhm.
Focus on that. Be very generous, because it's just one day. Tomorrow he will have stress. He will just burn off those calories. No worries.
Yeah.
And then take it easy for the trailer. Prepare yourself. What have you done to prepare yourself for trailering him? Are you loading him into the trailer or somebody else? What do you think?
The barn owner, yeah, she's coming, and she's very experienced. I mean, I trust her to be pretty um, knowledgeable about how to help him on the trailer. And like I say, in my experience, the 2 or 3 other times, 2 times, I guess, that I've actually trailered him, 3 times, he stepped up pretty willingly.
So what you can do, and I would suggest discussing that with the barn owner, because she wants to do her thing, and her thing is not your thing.
Right.
So then leave it to her, but also say, I would really like to be able to give him a treat when he's in the trailer.
Okay. I'm
You
sure
will be clicking, but she doesn't understand
Mhm.
the click, so you don't have to tell her about that. So you can click, and you can maybe stand with the door where you get out in the front, with, I would have pockets full of treats just to not run out.
Yeah.
And reinforce for focusing on movement. If he steps into that thing right away, and he's in, I would feed like open bar, close bar, like, feeding, good boy. And then you could just say, like, shall I stand here when you do the butt bar? And so that you don't have to go into the training principles, but this is what you can do.
Okay, that sounds great.
Because if you are standing and you're standing behind him, and a stranger or somebody who uses negative reinforcement, and he knows that, and there is a trailer, wants to get him move forward, there is a chance that he won't go in, because he's like, Mom, where are you?
Yeah.
So if you stand on the other side,
side.
if safe in the trailer already, or near the trailer, that he knows he needs to move forward towards you, I would do that.
Okay.
And sometimes having people behind a horse that needs to be loaded will just stresses them out.
Yeah. That sounds good.
And it's little things. It seems little, but for the horse, it absolutely makes a difference.
Huge.
Put in there like a hay net with something nice. They probably won't eat during the travel, but just that it's there, they have a choice, eat or not eat, will already also help.
Yeah. Luckily, it's only about a 15-minute drive.
They don't know that.
That's true. But I'm saying if
once
for us,
they're in, it doesn't matter anymore if it's like 5 minutes or 14 hours.
Yeah.
They don't know that.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Wow. Okay. So yeah, that's great. So I have my little project for tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then we just need to get over there and get settled in.
And think about the principles of learning and motivation. If it doesn't work, whatever happens, how can you make it work? What tools do you have? You have a target stick, you have your clicker. Your clicker is the most important training tool that you have, because that gives information about where he's going. I would suggest, like, don't click if she's training him or leading him in, only if he's in.
Okay.
Because otherwise there will be mix up between negative and positive reinforcement. You get her stressed because
Yeah.
she cannot do what she wants to do.
Yeah.
And even if she uses negative reinforcement, let her have that freedom and do. And you will be just like, you can say, I click and treat once he's in, or better if the butt bar is there. So there is no kind of return. That would be, I think, because you told me, for the record, for everybody who's watching the replay, Remy is an experienced traveler.
Yes,
So,
he is. Yeah, he flew
pick,
from Holland. I mean, he's been everywhere.
Exactly.
And then he went to California. So now he's gone 15 minutes up the road, but it's been a long time, so.
Yeah, but they do generalize. And if they don't have real traumas, they will do it. So don't start like clicking for approaching the trailer, because then you would just disrupt his flow.
Yeah.
So either you are totally out of sight and let her do it, or you stand in front of the trailer, because that makes the chances highest. And don't interrupt her doing her thing, because that would be confusing for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you know what to do, then it's like, even if she just starts pulling the rope a little bit or whatever, let her do it.
Yeah.
Because this is also the way, if he's travel experience, that he knows the drill too.
Right. That's true. Great.
So I don't foresee any problems. That will be perfectly. So any other questions? Margaret, question?
Well, that was like all so helpful to listen to. Just very briefly, I think for the purposes of this course, now I've realized that when each behavior has a whole list of criteria, this is not going to happen before Saturday, that I'm going to do a reverse rectangle. So if I just focus on one or two behaviors, I think that's all that can be done, really.
Yes. And
so a very small part of the reverse rectangle.
And first of all, this is the foundation. So once Candy nails it, she has it for the rest of her life. Second, you are in the Clicker Training Academy. So in the Clicker Training Academy, I won't explain and go into the details that we have gone through, because there's no time for that and no place, but you have all the knowledge, you have everything you need to know. So, and since we're starting, well, I wanted to start in September, but September is already over. But Saturday, we have the monthly coaching session, and then I will go over for weekly coaching sessions. We also have a Facebook group. So I will help you get it done.
Yeah, so, but basically I have been finding some relevant resources for this course in the academy. I just haven't had time to go through them all, like Step on the Shaping Plan and so on. But I also it's been so beneficial to go into this in depth. Like, I find this is generalizing, really helping me with all of my positive reinforcement training, not just movement for an overweight horse. Is really, really helping me understand the principles of it. I haven't done an intensive course like this. I wish it were longer than 2 weeks, but it's really been beneficial. I have so much to go back on and read on.
Like I said, I am kind of, my pitfall in courses is lumping for trainers. I can be very, very, very specific and detailed for the horse, and many criteria. And for you, sometimes I think my pitfall is to overfeed people. I will do another one of these in October. If you.
I just want to know, are these recorded videos just available till Saturday then?
until the end of the month.
Oh, until the end of the month.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
until
I
the
was going to
30th,
say,
every
please, another
recording.
week so I can
Yes.
go look at everything again. Oh, that would be great. That would be great.
So is
Yes.
this our last Zoom for this course, or are we doing anything
No,
else?
there was another one on planned. Well,
Okay.
no, there was not. Well, there's a wrap up planned
Yeah,
for
that's what I was thinking.
Friday. And I don't know yet how the wrap up will look like, but I think I like to do a Zoom call because I think it's really good for
I
just a
thought it said
discussion.
Friday Q&A on Zoom. It
Yeah.
says live
Oh,
Q&A on
perfect.
Zoom.
Will that be also at 9 o'clock your time?
Yes.
Well, I'll have to watch that because we'll be in mid everything. So, but that's okay. I'll just watch
But
it.
you can, if questions come up, put them in the Facebook group before we go live. I will just go to the Facebook group. What you can also do in order, if you really want to be sure that I don't miss it, send me a WhatsApp on my phone before we start, and then I can just or during, and then I will see. And then
But the wrap up
address
on
it.
Saturday, what time is that? Because you have the other HippoLogic Academy on Saturday.
No,
Yeah.
it was Friday, was it not?
Yeah, but it says wrap up on Saturday, wrap up and feedback.
Well,
Q&A on Zoom on
I have to
Friday.
figure out the times for that. then.
Okay, you'll let us know.
I
You'll
will
let us
let
know.
you know.
Okay,
I'll
thank you.
figure that out. Thank you for
That would be great.
sharing that with me.
That would be great. No,
Awesome.
this has been great. So much to think about. Thank you.
Yeah, you will get it done, and we can work on that in the academy further. In the academy, we have like a similar setup as for you, Sarah, a similar setup as here with well, we had monthly Zoom calls. Now I want to do weekly. We have a Facebook group where you can go in and share your videos and get feedback. And I have about 10 online courses that are available for members, and members get 15% off of training and coaching. So Margaret got 15% off of this course because she's an academy member, and it's the membership is a monthly recurring. It's $49 Canadian dollars at the moment. Yes, Canadian.
49.
Oh yeah, Canadian.
I always
That's
say
better
Canadian.
for me. I mean,
Exactly.
49 is
Good for
high.
you.
Not high, but 49, if I put it in US dollars, it's lower. So it sounds cheaper. It's probably what, 35 or $40, something like that. I don't know.
Well, what
42.
you always get is like personal feedback from me in a group. And the group thing is to make it like that other people can learn from each other. Like some people have such great questions. I like your questions always, Margaret, especially because they are about the basics, and that is so important. And sometimes I forget to mention those things.
Yeah.
Like, oh, in my head it is so clear. And then when somebody is not in my head, like you guys, and it's like, well, there is a part that I don't understand. How do you get from here to there? Oh, well, in my head, I have like 500 steps. So if these doesn't work, I always have like backup plans. But that's experience. That's what we get. And that's why I'm so keen on teaching you the principles. Like I don't want to say you have to click for touching the target and keep clicking that. But like, what is the principle? If you get too predictable, the horse will decide, yeah, for touching the target, I get that little piece of whatever. No, I don't think I want to do that.
That's
but
Remy.
if you have that motivation going, you know that brains love novelty, that brains love like unexpected things within the predictability. Target stick means I can get either reinforced or not. What would it be? Oh, I didn't get reinforced. Maybe I'll offer some more. Maybe it was me. Oh, and then they get a click. So that's how you raise the criteria. That's how you entice your horse to offer more. And that is so important if you understand that, because the people who are just, well, the booklet says click 10 times, feed 10 times, and then he knows how to target. Well, my horse just walked away after the 8th time. That's because you're too predictable. Your reinforcer is not high enough. They just make a decision. They do. And some people don't understand that animals make decisions. Like, yeah. Yeah. Oh, you're frozen.
This that I can learn. You don't have to treat after every single time, because now I click treat after every single time, and you kind of, that's really not even desirable, right? In the end, don't you want to sort of fade that out at some point, that you're not always clicking and or treating, but you can give the reinforcer and then they know, and then
exactly. And also chain the behaviors, like and that is really a big part of getting more behavior for one click and treat. I have one rule, and the rule is a bridge signal is always followed by an appetitive, either scratches or whatever they want to do. You can also, I also have that I offer appetitives without a bridge. But in order to understand that, you have to have some basic experience. I start with click is treat, and then I fade out the clicks.
Oh, I thought you'd fade out the treat. So I guess so.
I fade out the clicks.
Oh.
But that is one approach. There's also approaches where you keep clicking but fading out the treats.
That's kind of what I had understood as being a thing.
Then it's sometimes it's referred to as empty clicks, because there's no appetitive following. But it also depends on the learner and the trainer. I find it easier to fade out the clicks and then start training a new behavior. And then once in a while I click and treat. But once the horse knows how to be haltered, I just feed.
Oh, interesting.
Because the click, I personally use the marker as a scalpel to be very, very, very precise. And because I did that consistently, Kira knew. I heard a click. What did I do? I could see her think, like, was it my tail? Was it my left hind feet? Was it my right ear? What did I do?
I think Remy does that too. He knows.
And so if I would have stayed clicking for haltering, I would get different behavior, because she would think, oh, this was haltering, but I did a little bit of this. And then she clicked. So now she wants me to do this. No. So I rather have, like, okay, haltering is a thing, and after the haltering there will be a treat. And then
I see.
And then
that makes sense.
Then usually I chain it, like, okay, I click for coming towards me, I click for head lowering, I click for haltering, and then I fade out the coming, or I click for coming to me, then I halter, and then there's a treat. Like, you know, I get more behavior in between.
Interesting.
Because but that is just one way. There are other ways that work just as well. Like, I have seen the empty clicks use as a keep going signal, or like just as information. But if you didn't do that, that will confuse the horse at first. So you have to be very, very clear how to teach the horse that there will be empty clicks.
Oh, okay.
Because if you stop with your treats, I bet your horse is like, where's my treat?
Exactly. Yeah,
so you
that's
can
true.
teach them that. You can teach them anything. But for me, and the other thing for me is, I want to train people to train their horse. So if I do too much confusion, like, okay, this is the principle, this is the principle, and this principle goes before that principle. So today I'm doing this, and the other day I'm doing that. That creates also confusion in my learners, which are humans that have horses.
Yeah,
so for me,
that's true.
I had to think of a way, like, what are the foundations that are always super, super important. So that's the 6 key lessons for horses, the 6 key lessons for trainers, because they come back over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And once you start using those tools, especially like the training journal, the shaping plan, you will find that you look back in a few months and you think, like, how could I ever done this without that?
Interesting. Yeah. Oh, I just want to mention next weekend, my daughter and I are going to Equitana, which is the big show, and it's going to be in Kentucky. And I saw that Shauna Karish is going to be she's going to be doing a demo or something. So we'll make sure we go to that.
Absolutely. I love her. Yeah. If you happen to speak to her, just say, yeah, Sandra Popova says hi.
Okay. I don't know how close I'll be able to get to her, but I don't even know what the venue is going to be like, but it'll be fun. So
yeah, don't be afraid to ask questions. She loves questions. So if there's an opportunity, grab that opportunity with both hands. Like Shauna is one of the people that uses empty clicks, but because she knows how to use it, it was for Kira, it was like a little bit confusing, but not too much. But when I started after her clinic doing it, it was like gone. So, and then I decided, like, you know what? For this horse, this situation, I don't want to retrain myself. I'll do it this way.
Okay.
And then I fade out the clicks. And I used a box clicker specifically for new behaviors or improving better behaviors. So that's always on the details then. And then, so that was like, Kira knew that, and that was so easy. So, yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well,
thank you for
very
staying.
much. Yes, this has been great.
See you next time. Happy horse
Alrighty.
racing.
Have a good move, Sarah.
Thank you
have a
very
good
much.
move.
We'll keep you posted.
Absolutely.
Take
Thank
care.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.